It's the start of 2024 and the start of Rich Inside. This is a personal development podcast that focuses on what it truly means to be rich, not only in the external world where you have success and achievement, but most importantly, in the inner world where you have fulfillment and happiness. The goal of this podcast is to bridge the gap between the two, to be able to have a life where you're rich in every way, not only externally, and not only internally, but both. I'm your host, Aji, and actually my real name is Fouad, but all my friends call me Aji, so that's why. And every week on Tuesday at 5 a.m. Eastern, we're gonna have engaging conversations that awaken that richness inside of us with fascinating individuals that have achieved richness in both ways, both internally and externally. This premiere of the podcast is going to be an intimate episode between me and you, a heartfelt conversation where we discuss the what, the why, and the how of Rich Inside. So first, let's start with part one. So what is Rich Inside? What's the purpose? What's the objective this year? And what are we doing? The aim is to have awakening conversations every single week with new, interesting, fascinating guests that have achieved the perfect sweet spot or harmony between external richness and internal richness, with more of a focus on the internal, of course. This year, the objective is to craft a minimum of 52 episodes. So that means an episode a week, every week. Now, does that mean I'm just going to do 52? No, because I'm going to be testing and experimenting with different styles. So I might do even more. So don't be surprised if you see 70, 80, 90, 100 episodes. If you're someone who seeks external achievement, but that doesn't want to sacrifice living a poor internal life and that wants to have the best of both worlds, both in terms of external achievement, meaningful success, and internal fulfillment in terms of inner peace, happiness, and joy, then this podcast is for you. Let's jump into part two. Rich Inside is really meaningful to me because it's kind of the summary of my journey. When I was younger, I got bullied and made fun of for my appearance, and that created a lot of trauma. And from there, it was just suffering, like deep self-hate, deep self-loathing, like anything you could attach to self that's negative, I had it. It developed deep suffering inside me, and I asked myself the question, how do I stop this suffering? I couldn't live this way anymore, and I knew something needed to change from inside. And so I went on this journey of personal development where I tried everything to try to figure out the answers on how to stop the suffering and just find peace. And I became obsessed with this question, and I started trying everything. I started trying going to the gym, reading books, achieving success, status, money, everything that I could to try to find the answer to this question. And I would never come to a definitive conclusion. It would always be like, okay, I've done this, felt temporary joy or fulfillment, then comes back. It's not the solution. Until one day where I was in the UK, and you can see my face when I talk about this, it lights up. It was exam week, the most stressful week of the year. And I left everything till the end because for me, uni was a side thing, and my main focus was Mentally Great, which, if you don't know, was my personal development influencer name where I used to make content and stuff. And so I woke up one day and I was just pissed and I was fed up and I was like, fuck this. I don't want to study anymore. I've been doing it for the past 2 months non-stop. And it was the end of the 3 months or 3 months. I don't know how much it was. And we had to give everything back. And I woke up just pissed. I woke up no energy, pissed. And I was like, fuck this shit. But I said to myself, but I don't know how, but I pulled myself to get up, leave my phone at the house, which was the ritual because I used my laziness to my advantage and walked up the hill to go to the library. So I walked up, and just before I entered the library, I saw a garden. So a garden with a tree, and I was like, okay, the thought came to my mind, let's just go in there, let's just go sit there and meditate and relax for a bit just to get my mind right. Because it was like, whoo, it was so much overthinking, so much negativity. It was just, it wasn't the right state of mind to study or to get anything productive done. So I sat down, which I thought from the start was going to be a few minutes, under the tree in the meditation pose, and I just meditated. And I had been meditating for a while before, for the past 4 to 5 years, and I just said, okay, let me try it out and see if it helps. And I was meditating, and slowly but surely, the voice got quieter and quieter, and peace started to grow more and more. And the meditation went on, I don't know for how long, but I get to a point where my heart just opens. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like your heart space opens, and my mind was still. It was quiet. There was no thoughts. My heart opened, and it was just pure peace. Like a feeling I cannot describe, of pure joy, pure love, pure peace. At that moment, where I felt connected to everything, that's when I knew that was it. That was the solution to the initial question of how do you stop the suffering. This was it. I felt like I was floating. And I didn't take any drugs, by the way. I've never taken any drugs. This was naturally from just pure meditation and just purely being in the present moment. And when I opened my eyes, I swear to God, I couldn't control my smile. It was just pure joy. And I looked at everything in awe. I looked at strangers with pure love. I looked at nature. So you can imagine I was in a garden with beautiful greenery, beautiful flowers of every color you could imagine, in awe. Like I was connected to everything. And I look in front of me, and there was this tree and an orange bird just sitting there looking at me, like in awe, like looking at me like this. And I looked at him in awe too, because I just felt connected to everything. Like you feel like you're one with all. So I look at that bird, and he jumps right in front of me, and you can imagine me in the meditation pose, like with the the legs crossed and the back to the tree and the hands and the posture. And he just jumps on my knee and just sits there. And at that moment, I was like, this is the most magical moment of my life. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry, I'm cursing. It's just, that's how I feel. And at that moment, I was just like, okay, this is it. This is the most beautiful feeling of ecstasy I've ever felt in my life. And what's the craziest part about this is that along my spiritual journey, when I got bullied, I developed deep trauma and suffering. And inside, it was really, really fucking hurting. It was like suffocating. It was like a dark weight was inside of me all day, every day. And I used to put on this frown as a coping mechanism to avoid being hurt again by strangers and other people. And at that moment during that meditation, I couldn't control my smile. It was like the spirit in me, or the soul, was just so relieved from so many years of pretending, so many years of suffering, so many years of being attached to what's not real. The craziest part of this was, at that moment, the bird came up, sat on my knee, and the rest of the day was just magic. It was just, my heart opened. I felt so much energy. This is insane. If you contrast the before, after, when I woke up, I barely slept, zero energy, pissed. After, I was heart open, full of energy. Like I slept the best 8 hours of my life. And it was so beautiful, such a beautiful feeling. And the craziest part, a few months ago, sorry, I was just reading a book from Ramdas, which was a spiritual teacher I deeply, deeply started to love in recent time. Um, I loved everything about him. I love his story, and I loved also his spiritual awakening, going from being this guy that for the first 50 years, first half of his life was chasing being somebody, being someone, and the next 50 years was chasing being no one, which is the journey we were all going into. Because you start your life thinking you could add to yourself, and you start going outside and you start trying to achieve and trying to become a greater status and achieve more wealth. And at the middle of your life, you realize that this is not the only way, and that there is a deeper, much deeper meaning and more fulfilling way to live, where you let go of your ego and you embrace what's already there. And it's already there. Everything you want is already there. That's the craziest, that's the awakening I had also under that tree. Was that everything I ever wanted, to feel loved, to feel appreciated, to feel worthy, I already was. This wasn't something that you build. It's something you already are. It's just sometimes you put uh, blockages in front of it so you can't really feel it, because you've put so many layers of ego, and that blocks you from feeling the feeling that's always within you. And that's the most beautiful thing, is that you live your life, the first half of your life, believing you could add to yourself, and then the next half of your life you're spending unlearning being someone. The craziest part, to come back to Ramdas, I was reading his book, Be Here Now, and I loved his book. I loved his story, as I said before. And I said, okay, let me put on his wallpaper. I want him to be on my wallpaper, so it's a constant reminder to be here now, to live in that richness within. So I just found a random wallpaper, just put it on my phone, and I was like, okay, this is my wallpaper from now on. And after 2 weeks of having the wallpaper, I look at it, and I have the craziest aha moment in my life. Check the wallpaper. Wait, I don't know if you can see this. Does it? Okay. Can you see it? Okay. And look at his right knee. This is the exact same orange bird that jumped on my knee during that first awakening. And this was not done on purpose. This wallpaper, I just saw a random picture of Ramdas, and I said, okay, let me just put it as a wallpaper. It wasn't thought of. I didn't even notice the bird. It was just I saw Ramdas in the awakening state, and I was like, okay, let me put it as a wallpaper. And after 2 weeks, I don't know what comes to mind. I look at it and I'm like, holy fucking shit. This is the same bird that was on my knee during my first awakening, my first Satori. And that was one of the biggest aha moments in my life. And at the start of my spiritual journey, I read a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it was at a time where me and my best friend were both suffering very deeply. And his grandma offers him the book before she passes away. And we start reading the book together, and we both feel the spiritual transformation together. Until this day, we're still on the same journey. That feeling of divine inside that you get from awakening, from being fully present, letting go of ego, and being the awareness, it's the most beautiful feeling you'll ever feel in your entire life. There's nothing that will come close. No drug, no pleasure, nothing that will ever come close to that feeling you get once you awaken from the ego. And that's the purpose of this podcast, It's for me and you to go on this journey to touch more of that place where life feels like a miracle every moment. That's the objective or the journey. Let's not say objective. Now, along this path, there's been a lot of synchronicities and crazy, crazy moments. And what I've realized is I'm a doer. I like doing, right? And before, I was the doer that was chasing success, but with a relentless and drive that wasn't healthy. It was very ego, ego, ego. And yes, I did achieve some success, but that took a lot of strain and effort that wasn't really fulfilling. The journey wasn't fulfilling when I used to do it before. But when I learned how to flow, when I learned how to let go and to be fully present, that's when everything changed. And funny enough, ironically, when you let go of being someone, you start attracting everything you want faster. And this is a fact. And I can give you proof with my journey with Mentally Great, where I was full in flow. I was like going downstream with the river. And it was so effortless, so enjoyable, so fulfilling. And you can achieve more success with that richness inside when you're spiritually connected, when you're aligned, when you're fully present. This is the doorway to miracles, to alignment, to synchronicities, and to just those moments where you're like, what? Like, this is like you're in awe at life. And this is actually how this podcast started. It's all it was all a bunch of synchronicities that were happening together, and it started exactly a year ago. Let me explain. This is actually part three. So I was doing Mentally Great at the time, which was like the personal development content, and it grew really fast and it worked very well, and a lot of people benefited from it. And the community was pretty significant. It grew to 2.3 million, 2.4 million, and it just was doing really well. But deep down, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I just felt like something was off, like I was going against the stream. And it took a lot of self-reflection, but it came to a point where I was like, no, I don't like acting. I don't like scripting. This is not what I want to do anymore. And this was a hard decision to make because it took a lot of honest reflection, and all the success was achieved. And it's just not what I liked or enjoyed doing anymore. So at that point, I became very, very confused. Like, what do I do next? You know, because I'm a person that has a temperament that's driven towards action. They talk about it in the Gita. It's everyone has his own temperament. Some people are more karma yoga, which is like me, driven to action. Some people are more bhakti yoga, devotion. So they can be more still and just contemplating the divine. And some others are more raja yoga, sacrifice. Was it sacrifice? I forgot what the third one was. But everyone has their own temperament. I'm the temperament that likes to do. So to serve. So then I was so confused. What do I do next? You know? And I started trying to do more self-awareness exercises to research. I did the Ikigai, which is like you figure out what does the world need? What am I good at? What can I get paid for? And something else. Like there are four squares that intertwine. And I did it, and I figured out, look, what I really love is free speech. What I'm good at is communication, influence, and self-development. When I say communication, it's self-expression, free self-expression, where I can just be myself. So authentic self-expression. Influence in terms of positively impacting people towards a better life, a better path, a more fulfilling life. that I realized I was naturally good at. And the third one was self-development. I just loved learning about how to grow, how to improve, and how to evolve as a human being. And the intersection between the three was obvious. Start a podcast about just that, you know? And okay, I was like, okay, I need to start a podcast. I need to do this. But I was still confused. Like, how do you start a podcast like that? And so I read a book. I was watching a YouTube video by Oprah, her show, The Soul, or something along these lines. And she was hosting a speaker called Gabby Bernstein. And she talked about the power of surrender. And mind you, before, I was the guy that, before Mentally Great, I was the guy that never knew the concept of surrender. I thought you forced your way to success or to achievement or whatever. So I said, okay, I watched her talk, took notes. I was like, wow, this is powerful. Does she have a book or something? So I read her book and I practiced the things in her book: meditation, prayer, the power of surrender. And that led to some of the biggest synchronicities and the most powerful moments in my life. I was in a meditation and I see a vision of an angel that just does this motion, a motion of calm down, relax, everything you want is going to work out perfectly. At that moment, I felt such a relief. So I get a call from a friend and he says, I would love to host you on my podcast. And he was a very dear friend to me. And I said, my pleasure, I would love to. And so I went on his podcast, did it, and it was one of the most transformative, revealing experiences of my life. I felt like, holy shit, this is what I want to do. This is the thing that opens my heart. I felt so much energy after it. And he took actually a Polaroid of us together and he said, right behind it, your goal for 2023. And I said to start a podcast. After that, the craziest chain of events happened. I get a call from a friend and he tells me, this is crazy. Looking back at it, it's so funny. He tells me, come to Switzerland for vacation. He's my best friend, the one we went on this spiritual journey together. And I go to Switzerland and I meet his cousin. And his cousin is an Olympic snowboarder and he saw my journey with Mentally Great. And he told me, look, I'm not growing. At that point, we became very good friends. And I said, okay, let me show you how to do it. And so we sat down, started brainstorming ideas for a video, started scripting it, writing it, editing. We did the video, and the video got 5 million views. At that moment, it was an awakening moment for all of us. And he was like, okay, let's work together. Now, mind you, when I did that podcast with Jats, and I felt that feeling, and we took that picture, and I said, I'm going to start a podcast. I asked Jats, what's the budget to start a studio like you have? He had a beautiful studio with everything you could imagine to create a perfect podcast. He had the 2 chairs. He had the background that was like so aesthetic. He had the 3 cameras that were like top tier cameras. He had someone controlling to switch between the 2 people talking. It was just like an amazing setup. And I was like, how much does it cost? And he was like 8 to 10K, 8 to 12K, 10 on average. So I said, okay. I didn't have 10K at the time, but I was like, let's put the intention out there, you know? And so when we released that video, it gets 5 million views and it just goes crazy. And the Olympics repost the video also. My friend's like, okay, let's work together. Let's do something. The first contract was 10K. You can imagine the crazy serendipities and coincidences and synchronicities that led to that event. And looking back at it now, I'm still in awe. Like, how did this happen? Then also, it's another crazy chain of events. We start working together and his Instagram grows from 60K to 100K. And from 100K to 173K. And a lot of other people that know him want to also start working with us. So accidentally, by coincidence, we start an agency. I did it weird like this. We started an agency, and it's called MG Media. MG meaning mentally great, MG Media. So we start working with super cool people. Pat, Olympic snowboarder, Saracho, Olympic sprinter, Etienne, expedition filmmaker who's done some of the craziest challenges I've ever seen, and Amir, who's a strength and conditioning coach, a very dear friend too. And it was such a fulfilling journey working alongside Carl, who became a really, really good friend, and growing together on this journey. And Miled and Eliano and everyone in the team who were a big part of this. And it got to a point with the agency where I was at the office one day alone. And I just sat down and I was like, okay, let's set some goals for this agency. Because at the time it was just an accident. It just happened. I just flowed with it. We had a couple of clients and it just, it wasn't something like legit where we had big goals and we were aiming for stuff. It was just like we were flowing with what was happening. So when I sat down, I wrote the big goals I had: make $1 million, get 100 clients, get bigger offices, and just everything that could come to mind. I wrote the why, I wrote the how. And when I finished, I had 3 pieces of paper in front of me and I was reflecting. And I was like, no, this is not what I want. I don't want to end up the rich entrepreneur that has everything on the outside, but that has simultaneously nothing. That has no peace, no happiness, no fulfillment. Because there's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur. And if you like that, then that's for you and do it. But for me, what I was doing wasn't fulfilling me. So fulfillment is something I deeply value in work. Doing something I like, even if it gets tough, it's fine. If I enjoy it, I'm going to do it, And what made me, at that point, I made a realization. And it was like, first of all, I don't want to end up the rich entrepreneur that has everything and nothing at the same time. Number 2, I don't have genuine interest in being the best in the world at scripting, because that was the main thing we were doing. And number 3, I didn't want to chase 2 rabbits at the same time. So I telescoped myself in 5 to 10 years. And I was like, okay, this is not what I want to be, where I want to be, where do I want to be? And I realized, okay, look, my heart has been saying a big, big yes for the podcast for the past year. It's something that I've wanted to do. It's something that has aligned with everything I've done. Let's ask for a sign. So I asked for a very specific sign. I said, if I see 888 more than normal, I never saw 888. So I usually see a lot of numbers. Let's go to this discussion. I usually see a lot of numbers. So 111, 222, 333. 888 is one that I never see, close to never. And I was like, okay, if I see 888, it's a clear sign that I need to shut down the agency and completely follow the podcast. So we traveled to Austria, and I had this question in my mind, this intention to get a clear sign for starting the podcast. Because it was either, the options were either follow the agency alone, what brings money, or follow the podcast alone, which is my passion, or do both. So I asked for the clear intention. And when I go there, I swear to my mother's life, there was nothing we did where the word passion wasn't involved. So we went to have dinner, for example, and the waiter was so excited and so happy, and we were so confused. Like, why are you so happy about serving tables? Like, he was really fulfilled, and we were confused by it. So I asked him, and he was like, I used to work this marketing job or whatever, sales job, and I really didn't like it. And I tried serving and being a waiter, and I loved it. It was my passion. So that was the first sign. The second sign, we were doing brainstorming videos for Pat, and it was like a content week. We called it Monk Week. Every single video we did, which was the idea coming from Pat, he was the one throwing ideas, and then we start crafting something, was about passion. Every single one. Literally every single one. and we did like 8, and it always led to passion. And the third one, I asked for the sign for the AA8, and I don't know, I was working on my laptop and stuff, and I just went for a walk. Came back. I swear to my mother's life, I don't know how. I don't know if I clicked by accident or if I was talking to, but it just happened. I don't know how it happened. I come back. There's the notes app on on the laptop, and I see literally a undescribable amount of 888s. I don't know if I still have the picture, but let me check, because this is insane. Like it was a crazy experience, and I have to show it to you. I don't know if you can see this. A crazy amount of 888s. I just come back to the laptop, and that's what I see. This is insane. Just looking at it now, also, it's crazy. And till now, till this day, I see 888 everywhere I go, on every single plate of car numbers, on every single whatever number, telephone number. It's crazy. I see it everywhere. So at that moment, I was like, okay, you've got to make the decision. You've had enough signs to show you that this is the way. Your heart says a big yes. And I saw a quote by Steve Jobs, which really impacted me, which was, he was doing an interview, and he said, work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to feel fulfilled is to do great work. And the only way to do great work is to do something you love. And that was, all of these signs were validation for me. It was like, done. This is the decision I'm taking. I'm pursuing my passion, even though it doesn't make sense. On paper, it doesn't make sense, because I was making money, right, from this agency. It was going well, but it wasn't my passion. So I just went with it. And following my gut feeling was something that has brought me to where I am today. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything, but it's true. It's what has led me to the best decisions and to the most fulfilling things in my life. The most fulfilling experiences. My greatest potential was unleashed when I followed my gut, when I trusted my gut. So I did. And this is why I'm starting this podcast. And then this is how it came to life. It was like, okay, let's do a podcast about my spiritual experience, my first spiritual awakening. It was a glimpse. I'm not saying I'm no monk. I'm not even close. I'm a long way there. But that glimpse was enough to tell me that this is the way. And I want to adventure on this journey to touch more of that feeling and that state of divine. And if you want to come along, you're more than welcome. Let's go on this journey together. So this is how the podcast came to be. Now we do have a dream guest list and a vision for it. The goal this year is to cultivate a genuine, meaningful, and credible community of 1.2 million true fans on YouTube through Awakening Conversations. And this is not a goal that I am attached to. It's a goal to, it's like having a vision, and you know you're going up. Imagine you're going up a set of stairs. You know you're going up, right? But you take it one stair at a time, and you enjoy the journey while enjoying every step mindfully. So this is the objective. The goal this year is to release a minimum of 52 episodes, which is an episode a week, every week on Tuesday at 5 a.m. Eastern. And I'm going to also, so don't be surprised if there's more episodes, because I'm going to experiment to really figure out what works, because I want to make spirituality go viral, and I want it to reach as many people as possible, because I think this is the purpose of our existence as human beings, is to awaken, right? So the past 3 years of my life, I've specialized in how to create viral videos, and I have touched that feeling. So my number one purpose is awakening. My number two is virality. So this is the objective, the two things for the podcast. Now, in terms of dream guest list, I know you've been waiting for this, and I have been too. I have a lot of people on that list that I feel we would have so much awakening conversations with. So let me go through it. Eckhart Tolle, Rick Rubin, Michael A. Singer, Mike Tyson, Simon Sinek, Kanye West, Carlos Rusin, Mike Posner, Andrew Tate, John Fury, Tyson Fury, Ryan Garcia, Shia LaBeouf, George Janko, Andrew Kirby, Patrick Bet-David, Sadhguru, Tony Robbins, David Goggins, Jake Paul, Joe Rogan, John Jones, George, I already said it, Alex Eubank, Gideon, Jim Carrey, Morgan Housel, Joe Dispenza, Aubrey Marcus, Jay Shetty, Jordan Peterson, Hamza, Andre Dukum, Rich Roll, Lewis Howes, Russell Brand, Wim Hof, Cameron Haynes, Sara Al-Madani, Iman Ghazi, Mark Manson, Stephen Barlett, Ziggy Alberts, Kim Churchill, Marissa Peer, Robin Sharma, Rhonda Byrne, Ryan Holiday, Joko Willink, Deepak Chopra, Gabby Bernstein, Naval Ravikant, Post Malone, Daniel G. Amen, Luke Belmar, Robert Greene, Novak Djokovic, Gary Brecka, Nick Kyrgios, Brené Brown, Vishen from Mind Valley, Prince EA, Clark Kegley, James Hersey, Pharrell Williams, Mel Robbins, Tom Bilyeu, Oprah Winfrey, Teal Swan, Sam Harris, Gabor Mate, Matt from Yes Theory, Robert Grant, Lucas Mack, Sorel Amour, Chris Williamson, Jeff Bezos, Light Wakens, Bill Letson, Paul Conti, Brené Brown, The Mental Level, Ray Dalio, Chunks, Dr. Julie, Caleb Plant, GG33, Nikhil Keswan, Nick Santonastasso, Sam Garrett, Vic Blends, Alex Hormozy, Brian Pruitt, Jordan Ferrone, Robert Greene, Kay Sennett, Michael Bublé, Malte Martin Gessi. There's more. Tanios, which is a spiritual guru of mine. Bijan Pusti, a great friend. Alex Sedlak, Zach Dernyovsky, which is also a great friend. Sean Andrew, Josh Tusania, also a great friend. Tyler Satari, also a great friend. Maria Saab, Ryan Habshi, Rami Naous, Iris Daly, Ziad, the boxer from Saudi, I think, Jay Kaizen, Andy Anderson, and yeah, that's it. So it's a pretty comprehensive list. It's not a list that's limited, so we can add to it whoever we want. And you can propose names in the comments that align with the podcast. And I would love to also include guests that you guys want. So put it in the comments. And I'm excited. I'm just excited for this and for what's to come and the journey ahead. And for me, this is something that has been deeply, deeply in my heart for the past year. That when I talk about, I just light up. I think you saw it in the podcast. I'm deeply, deeply grateful for starting because I was afraid for a long time. I was having paralysis paralysis, sorry. And there was a lot of fear of failure and fear of starting and fear of not being good enough and insecurity in the process. And I spent a month strategizing about this podcast and a lot of time reflecting, brainstorming, studying the best and seeing what they do, what do they have in common, and what can I learn. And now is the time to act. This first episode might not be perfect. And perfectionism was something that blocked me from starting way back this podcast. And I come here and I embrace the imperfection. I embrace the process and I embrace the journey. I am here excited of the conversations we'll have with so much fascinating people. For me, Rich Inside, it's is much more than just a podcast. It's an adventure, as I said, a spiritual journey we go on together, hand by hand. I'm nothing close to a monk, nothing close to a guru, nothing, not even close to anything. But what I know is that I am curious and I'm dedicated to the path, to spiritual awakening. And if you are too, then let's go on this journey together. I'm excited. This was episode 1. Tune in on every Tuesday at 5 a.m. Eastern every week for a new episode, Awakening Conversations. This was the first episode between me and you. So, yeah, that's it. Namaste. I also wanted to add that this was a crazy chain of serendipities. And during that year, I had the idea for the name in the car with a friend. And he was talking about Andrew Tate and how it's so cool to be rich outside and to have all the money and status and fame and cars. And in one of those many wise moments, I said, yeah, it's cool to be rich outside, but what's even more important is to be rich inside. And at that moment, it was like a light switch in my head, like, wow, this is the name for the podcast. And I refrain myself right now from saying saying holy shit, but I said it, whatever. And and at that moment, it was an aha moment. And then the next step was so first was the name, then was the logo. I said, what would be like a really genuine, authentic, and meaningful logo for me? And I said, look, it makes so much sense. A person meditating under a tree and having his awakening. So this is the logo for the podcast. So first there was the name, then there was the logo, then there was the song. The song. This is what I wanted to say. So I was in the car driving, and these are like months apart, but during the year. So maybe the name, I don't remember when it was, but then after a few weeks it happened with the logo, then after a few weeks with the song. So I was in the car just driving, and I just get this symphony in my head. And it just, I start recording on my phone and I start singing, and it goes something like this. And this is going to be the intro for Rich Inside.
Yeah, we'll find. Yeah, we'll find. Yeah, we'll find the truth. The truth. Yeah, the truth. The truth.
Now, of course, it's going to be better than this, but this is kind of what it's like. And it just came to me, and I was like, holy shit, this is the this is the song for the podcast, for the intro, because that's what it's all about. This podcast is about truth, the truth of the universe, the ultimate truth that we are already everything, and it resides within every single one of us. And that richness that you're seeking outside of yourself, the freedom, the love, the appreciation, everything you're seeking is already inside of you. And that's the ultimate wisdom of the universe, is that you're one with all and all is one with you.